Our guest today lives and breathes fitness, competing at an international level for over 3 decades and holding the 400-meter record. Professionally, in both the public and private sector, he's driven business growth, playing a key role in the success of next-generation clubs who went on to sell to David Lloyd Leisure. Today, he's heading up one of the UK's leading leisure trusts, who recently received the UK Active Uprising Transformational Leadership Award, commending staff efforts in development across the business. So for a lesson in changing lives and helping people to achieve, please join me in welcoming Malcolm McPhail, CEO of Life Leisure, to the Escape Your Limits podcast. So thanks for coming along to Peterborough. Appreciate it. It's been quite some time since we met, and when I was preparing for this, it brought back memories of many years ago. It must be like 18, 19 years ago, driving up to Edinburgh with a big van full of this blue matting and cutting it into one of your first facilities I think you opened. Was that the Next Generation?
Yeah, so that was Next Generation Edinburgh. Matt, do you know, like, it feels like a lifetime ago, but then, like, you've just jogged my memory. I remember, like, meeting you for the first time in the gym. Your dad was there as well, and you had a battered white transit van, and I come up to you, and like, I was general manager of the club, and at that point, up in my career, every single job I'd got, I'd not a clue. Like, I literally had not a clue how to do it. I just said yes to everything. And that was a great example. So I find myself from being a leisure contracts manager in Bolton, then up there in Edinburgh, running probably one of the biggest clubs in Europe at the time, certainly one of the most prestigious, the first Next Generation club, massive hype around it, nightclub, fine dining restaurant at the front, just like a massive delivery, kind of like just a massive facility. And I come up into the gym and I'm thinking, how am I going to pull this off? And then I start speaking to you, and like, for me, I'm thinking you're just like the delivery guy, like, that you're putting down the mat, like making sure. Mind you, I've got to say that the mat was fantastic, and of course we used you for the next 10 years, so it must have been good. But and then I remember you telling me this vision, and like, this is what you were going to do, and you were going to build this health and fitness product company that was going to be the best in the world, and it was going to be so innovative, and you were going to be right on the cutting edge. And I thought, this guy's dafter than me. Like, I'm thinking that. But you actually made me feel good, because I thought you've got less chance of doing that than I have actually pulling this off as a general manager. Hey, listen, I know we'll talk about it a wee bit later on, and how we were right on the cutting edge and how we supported each other, and you tested the products out, and the kids gym concept and stuff like that, and I know we'll talk a wee bit about that later. But listen, just coming here today and just speaking to you again, like, brought back memories like the old days, and what you've done has been amazing. Like, you should be so proud of you and the family and the guys and stuff like that. And I've just come in today and everybody is just fantastic. You've got a great team here. You should be really, really proud of them.
Thank you. Thanks for that, Malcolm. Yeah, it brought me back a lot, some memories about that club. But I think at the time it was Scott who and his father had sold David Lloyd, and then they did their first standalone venture.
Yeah.
Was that kind of?
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. David Lloyd was sold, and I think David bought the land himself at New Haven. Scott was our managing director, just like such a capable individual, even as a 21-year-old. So not only did I not have a clue, but my boss was a 21-year-old.
I didn't realise that.
Yeah, 21, 22. He was just phenomenal, and real way visionary, way ahead of his time, and yeah, listen, the rest is history. Next Generation, I think we got up to about 18, 19 clubs, UK and Australia, and then wow, it buys back David Lloyd, 2007. You actually couldn't write it. And Scott, I remember Scott telling me that one day would love to have his dad's name back, and but that Next Generation club, I tell the young guys at Life Leisure, and they don't believe me, so I tell them that we opened with 2,500 head members, which could be about 3,500, 4,000 people, and every time we did a promotion, we would have a queue outside the porter cabin. You know, the food and beverage turnover for the first year was £550,000. Average sub, you know, £82 back in, you know, 2000. You know, like, and has the industry moved on? It has, but in some ways, like it's stalled or reversed, because I don't hear anybody telling me those figures, you know, about clubs that they're opening at the moment.
How much did they, to give people an idea, what was the sort of investment in that site at the time? Because I'm thinking back and it just seemed to be this huge, and it had everything that you could imagine in there. What sort of budget did they have?
I think the land was around 1 million, and the build out would be around 10 million.
Right.
But I think it was 170,000 square feet on 8.5 acres of land. So it was big, as you know, as you could probably build a club at that time. So huge investment, private money, huge amount of pressure, but like just loved every minute of it. You know, I just can't begin to tell you how much fun we had back in those days. And you know what? It's probably naivety more than anything else. But I just remember those days like the best days of my career. Really fortunate to work with, you know, a number of talented individuals, and have guys like Scott. Imagine having a 21-year-old as your mentor, like, you know, and David, you know, just like really talented individuals. I'm so blessed, like, to have had that opportunity. You know, my start point in the private sector.
We never talked about this, but I always used to think at the time you seemed like a kind of a kid in a sweet shop, because we'd come up there and we started to build a friendship. I'd come up all the time to be working on something, and you have these ideas. I remember there was a basketball court, and then you had this kind of kids area, and you had a high performance area, way before anybody was really doing that. What was sort of the inspiration for you at the time to put together some of these things that hadn't been seen, certainly in England, hadn't been seen before? Were they ideas that you got from other parts of the world, or where did you get that sort of vision from to build it as it was?
Listen, I've never had the original idea in my life, so it's good to ask where the inspiration came from. A lot from the YMCAs in the States, but also really just the compulsion to deliver something that was a complete health and fitness and sports product, and covered every. So if you wanted to come in and say, instead of playing tennis today, you wanted to shoot some hoops and stuff like that, well, why shouldn't you have? You know, we've got like 8 acres. Like, why can we not do something about it? And with a volleyball court as well. Right. So with the volleyball, the basketball, with the climbing wall, and and you know, right the way through the next generation years, we just pushed it. And I remember like you guys coming, and we did I think we were the first mainstream club to have a boxing ring. That was Swindon. Like, we just kept pushing it. And do you know what? The customers were getting it whether they liked it or not. Like, we just used to sit and go, that's a great idea. Though at that time there wasn't any huge amounts of intel. Let's ask the customers. We just used to sit in Wimbledon and say, you know, let's have a go at this. Do you know what? We just went and did it.
Yeah. What were some of the lessons, some of the things that you did? I guess you were experimenting really in those early days. What are some of the things that you did that actually carried forward and was a success that you probably didn't realise was going to be at the time, would you say?
Yeah, I think the kids' gym format and kids' physical fitness and getting kids involved in a family product alongside mum and dad, I think that then evolved to programs as well as physical facilities. you know, I think we were the first guys to do that, and we get battered initially when we did it. Everybody was saying, "No, you shouldn't have kids in the gym," and you know, let's get this will make them, you know, into difficult children, and you know, you shouldn't be talking about their weight. And look where we are today. We're kids. You know, it's heartbreaking. So I think the kids stuff, and I think that we also were the first guys who did the PT pods. You know, and again, we will say, what you doing? You're compartmentalizing your gym. You're making it less functional. And when in fact, you know, people maybe like a wee bit of privacy along with their PT, and it feels a wee bit more special. And do you know what? They might even pay a wee bit more for it. So that turned out to be a good commercial idea in terms of the yield for some of the next generation facilities. But yeah, no, you're right. And listen, I'd love to tell you it was based on science and intel and research. Honestly, we just used to sit and go, let's just do it. But you know, that sounds like a good idea, and we did it. And if it didn't work, we changed it though. We changed it really quickly. The climbing walls were an example of something that didn't work. But you know, they can be quite expensive. So, you know, I remember getting a few rollickins for some of those in the gyms, but they quickly become just another wall if they don't get used. But listen, like, and sometimes I think that's what we do today. We take away that freedom sometimes for our leaders, and the pressure that they're upon to deliver bottom line. I think that's maybe the difference. We had to deliver, like, for sure, but I just remember, like, just the freedom to come up with stuff and no worry about making mistakes. I made the amount of mistakes I made, how I managed to stay 7 years. Honestly, I don't know, but you know, we just made a mistake, and then wrong. Then you would just think, geez, what can I come up with? It's just going to be that thing that's going to get me out of the doghouse this time. And we just used to keep thinking like that.
And you talk off camera about the culture then. So what was the sort of culture like in the business at that time? You know, in terms of, you know, in terms of, you know, the people you report to, and then how you would, you know, feed that down, and that dynamic, how it worked together. Because certainly in the early years, I don't know, I never worked for the company, but there always seemed to be this great energy, you know, from the people and the ideas, and you didn't seem to be afraid, as you say, to experiment and try things. You know, if you had to sort of explain that and put that into another business, what do you think were some of the dynamics that you could probably learn from?
The thing about Next Generation was we, right for the get-go, believed we were world class. We believed we were better than everybody else, even though we didn't have one club. And that belief I have today, and that's the belief I instill in Life Leisure. It was a great grounding for me, but we, right for the get-go, the hype around what we were doing in the industry, but behind that there was a belief that we just wouldn't fail, and we couldn't fail.
Yeah, and you obviously come from, so you had quite an interesting sort of athletics career as well. You sort of Scottish 400 metre record. Well, you tell me what was some of these?
So I was a Scottish 400 metre hurdles champion, and again, like, I went to 400 hurdles because I was really a failed 400 metre runner. Like, my life story is just a bit like just taking opportunities, because nobody chose 400 metre hurdles as an event, did they? It's absolutely like, you know, every time you run it you throw up, and that's not just you know, and there's a training. So I was a good journeyman athlete, so a bit of Europe, internationalist. But what that taught me was the importance of discipline over motivation, because, like, there was not one time that I can honestly tell you that I felt motivated to do a back-to-back 200 metre session, but I knew I had to do it. And just talking off camera, I was saying about the importance of knowing what you have to do, when you have to do it, whether you want to do it or not. That is yours for life, and you can train your behaviour to be like that. Motivation's too fleeting for me. Like, you know, like I could be motivated right now, I could take a call and be demotivated. You know, that's going to affect how I perform, that's going to affect how I think. And you know, another thing that you know, I learned was, you know, and we talked about quick decision making before, thinking's overrated. Go with your gut feel and just go and do something. You know, we spend a lot of time like thinking about stuff and talking ourselves out of stuff up here, and then we talk other people out of it. When in fact, let's just have a go. So like if you said to me in terms of like culture and behaviour, what I learned at Next Generation, I would say the importance of discipline, and the importance of relationships, and like quite unconventional relationships between managing director and his staff. I mean, you were there. You saw the relationships. You saw how we interacted, and that is like, you know, I brought that right the way through my career the last 25 years. Yeah.
And what do you, when you say about motivation is fleeting, what's the alternative to that then? So rather than sort of motivating people, what do you do that's sort of, you gave the example of picking up the phone and then you're demotivated again. What's your sort of inner drive that keeps you level and, you know, positive?
Yeah, I think you know, living in the real world. Like so for me, like my discipline came from. So I spent time in care. So my discipline came from like people telling me that I wasn't any good at anything, like, you know, and it's like achievement motivation. If you get told often enough that you're only good, you actually become rubbish. You actually start believing it yourself. And it was through athletics. Athletics was the first thing that I realised I was any good at. And interestingly enough, like in terms of culture, you know, Life Leisure, you know, just won Transformational Leadership at the UK Active Awards just yesterday, and you know, and we've won a number of awards based on transformational and inspirational leadership. And that all comes for me as a 13-year-old sitting at the end of his bed when he's in care and saying, like, you know, I'm going to have a good day today. And you can make choices. You make choices to have a good day, and you have that control. You have that ultimate control, and that's where the discipline kicks in. You know, you're motivated to make that choice, but then you have to go out and deliver it. That's why discipline for me is way more important than motivation. And our philosophy at Life Leisure is PB equals PB. So preferred behaviour equals personal best. And all that means is you choose to have a good day, and you can have a personal best day. You will have a good day. That's the relationship, and that's me. Just you know that, and you know, and you know you think that sounds good, and then you roll out over the business, and then people say, "Geez, that's a great idea. Where did that come from?" And you go, "Like, that's just me."
So when you was 13, what gave you? Because that's quite a young age to sort of have that. You know, that awareness of, you know, I'm sort of nearly 50 and I'm coming to those realise some of those things now. What was that? Someone that influenced you, or did something just drop in your mind to say this needs to be done differently?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think just the fact that, you know, it's like when you were talking about the creative side and about, like, you know, looking forward to the future. I've never settled. Like I always think there is something better, and you go in search of that, and that's what I love about life. Like, you know, and listen, I'm like people who are happy where they are, and they don't want to move forward, and that they're really content. That's great. You know, that is brilliant, but it's no for me. And I think even as a 13-year-old, like, I don't know whether genetically I'm wired like that, but that was just me. Like, you know. And not only do you have to believe in it, but you have to quieten everybody who tells you, like, not to believe in it as well. So you know, and I think if you can learn those skills as a youngster, then it sets you up for the rest of your life. And listen, I've never walked into a room and been the brightest guy in the room, not by a long way. But I tell you what, you have to cough up a lung if you're going to come up against me. Like, as a 13-year-old, as a 25-year-old, as a 50-year-old. You know, I still go on the track at Masters Athletics, and all the guys know in training, if they're going to step on the track with me, they're going to have to cough up a lung.
That's a good mindset, I guess. And
You get that cough up a lung. Yeah.
do you understand that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Is
Yeah.
it a Scottish phrase?
Yeah, but you understand it. Yeah, I want to. When
translate
the Americans
that
cough up a lung, yeah, that would translate it. No, actually, literally.
Yeah. No, it's a key thing, and it's one of the things that comes up a lot in our podcast about that mindset, and I guess maybe some people kind of have it like it sounds that you have, but a lot of people I guess have to work at it. We were chatting about children, and do you think that we've obviously got this huge obesity issue at the moment. Do you think some of that is to do with kind of helping with the mental side of getting them to think differently about things rather than just necessarily trying to tackle the body? What's your thought between that connection?
I was a PE teacher, so I started life off and really proud of that. So back in '89, when I was out teaching in schools, there was a report called the Renfrew Report, and it said that kids who had daily PE, daily physical activity, studied harder, were brighter in school, better behaved, and there was a Eurofit test battery and performed better at the fitness tests. Geez, that was '89, and we're still having this debate now. And that is one of my biggest frustrations in life, that we're still talking about kids and they're not getting enough opportunity to take part in activity. For me, I think the days have gone where you build, and it's really sad, but you build physical activity into their daily life. I think we all, the issues around safeguarding, etc. I think it's really difficult for kids to have the experiences that maybe you and me had, and that's an interesting debate, isn't it? Has the world changed, or do we just not notice it back then? Like, I don't know. But
seems to be a lot more protected now.
Yeah, and exactly. And I just think that we're moving towards like a much more constructed, strategic, almost like manufactured approach to physical activity for clinical, and we need to say yes, because if that's the only delivery option we have, then we need to get on with it. But be smart and work in fun and enjoyment and happiness, and also the kids together building relationships. That it's not just about physical activity. When they're kicking a ball, it can be about teamwork. It can be in relationships. There's so many things that you can build in. And the thing about kids is, and I learned this as a PE teacher, kids just don't learn in one dynamic. They can learn a lot of things very quickly. So you can deliver like so many different topics to them, and they'll maybe pick 2 or 3 up, but they'll use them. And so something that they might pick up in terms of like playing volleyball or basketball or in the gym, they then take away and they can use that with their friend to build a stronger relationship. But they just don't know it. They're just
transfer some of those ideas.
Yeah.
Right.
Transfer skills, transfer behaviour. Like you know. But we're really focused on kids and their fitness and their health. And of course, there's the other dynamic about mental health as well, which we just touched on before. I do think like physical activity is that magic pill. I just think we have to be careful on how we deliver it and what our outcomes are. I think we focus too much on outcomes rather than it's like the end of the story is better than the story. And in fact, everybody knows we all love a story. So why should we just focus on that in terms of fitness? You know, we are programmed to love a story. When I do the SIMSPA youth panel, I chair the SIMSPA youth panel, and the they probably think I'm useless on the technical side, but they love all my stories. You know, it's like, you know, it's almost like the agenda goes for a technical point, and they're sitting there waiting on a story coming. And do you know what? I love telling stories. So I tell them these stories, and they sit up and do you know what? Who's to say that they aren't getting more educated, they aren't getting more out of it just because it's a story and no like a technical point that they have to know. And that's exactly where we need to look at in terms of kids fitness.
And do you think linking, and maybe that's what you're saying, but sort of linking, engaging the mind along with this physical activity is, you know, something that can be done, and working on that sort of, you know, as you said when you was 13, that positive attitude to say, well, actually I'm going to decide to have a good day instead of constantly needing to be motivated or stimulated or something.
Yeah. And I think, like, listen, and like, I don't, you know, kids get a bad rep in terms of, like, you know, the stuff that's on the TV just now. And when I see when you're 50, anybody under 25, like is that age group, and they get such a bad rep where, like, you know, these kind of celebrities who are celebrities for being celebrities. Like my daughter Madeline just like every night comes in and watches them, and they get a bad rep, but that's what they see and believe. And we have a duty of care to spend some time with them and coach them maybe in some of the old ways, and not just say, oh, that's just that generation. Let's shape the generation. Like, it's not just about like what's coming up in the future. Like, history can shape a generation. I think it's called heritage. You know, and we as leaders and as coaches. And whether you're a group chief executive for a leisure company or whether you're coaching 5 kids, I think we all have a duty or responsibility to actually not say, oh, that's no good for them, but no, do nothing about it. You know, do something about it then. You know, when I came at Jordan Hill College in '89, I was just bursting with education. And do you know what? The kids were getting it, whether they liked it or not. Like, you know, they were getting everything that I had learned. Like, and they were like, I remember one time the ball get kicked down beside a river, and one of the kids had never seen a frog. So we spent the next 20 minutes talking about where frogs come from and tadpoles.
And that's, I guess, is that the approach that you've got now where you're at? You know, where in the area you're in, do you see, you know, is there a lot of overweight kids, and is that something you're tackling? Yeah,
I mean, definitely. It's interesting. We also have a program where we feed the kids in some of our more unfortunate areas or super output areas, and we work in Stockport and Manchester. Where it was called Fit and Fed, and the kids come and they're expected to do 2 hours activity, and they've not had any breakfast and they don't have any lunch, and they get tired, and you think they're demotivated or they lack discipline, and they actually get the energy. So it's about the balance as well. So we actually feed the kids as part of the program, and I think we just have a shared responsibility around the obesity epidemic and the health issues with children. I don't think it's down to the NHS. I think it's everybody that has a role to play needs to step up. It's too easy to blame parents as well. I'm a parent, it's tough.
Do you think it's because the parents are not really that educated in what they should do as well? You know, certainly from a nutrition perspective, you know, are they... What would you, if you had to sort of work out, I guess years ago, from my memory, you know, there probably wasn't as many, I certainly didn't remember at school, you'd have like one sort of, you know, big kid, but most people weren't. You know, now, you know, it's something's obviously changed. What do you think has gone on?
I think the access to really bad quality food is become prevalent. And again, it's too easy. Like, you will know as well as I do how expensive it is to eat healthy. You know, it costs fortunes. You know, and then there's this access and this marketing like for children everywhere, and then it's just really difficult for parents financially, and the choices they have to make, but they have to make those choices, and they have to be aware that they are, you know, the children, you know, need to be taught at a very early age about the benefits of health. But it's really tough. Really
Who do you think, you mentioned we should all be doing it, but you know, where do you think a lot of this change should start? You know, obviously you can't rely on the government or the NHS to do stuff, but where, you know, in your world, you know, where are you decide, where's the best place for you guys to start, and other people maybe that deal with kids?
I think that for us, and we do this, that we deliver our kids programs in an industrial scale, right across the whole width and breadth of communities. I think we spend too much time focusing on like football, soccer programs, and netball, and you know, the actual skill-based stuff. Like, we do a lot of multi-sport stuff that's very cheap.
Such as what sort of?
Like so kids could come. So for example, at Stockport Sports Village, which sits just on the outskirts of an area of deprivation. So instead of putting a ball at their foot, we put a racket at their hand and we go and show them how to play tennis. Like, best Ryan Giggs, you're not going to tell me if somebody had put a tennis racket in Ryan Giggs' hand instead of a football at his feet, that guy wouldn't have been a great tennis player. He's a natural athlete, but he probably never saw a tennis racket in his life. So I just think kids should be exposed to multi-sports, loads of different activities, and you know, 1 calorie burnt is 1 calorie burnt, you know, etc., and just keep them moving, and build in some fun and enjoyment, rather than whether the kid, you know, wee Joey can you know, rattle a ball 30 yards at the end of the, you know, the coaching session. Irrelevant.
How do you think sort of competitive sport is for kids? You know, is it important to win? You know, I know a lot of times it's not about winning. It's, you know, it's about participating. But do you think sometimes having that competitive spirit is important? You're obviously very competitive. I know. What's your view on that?
This probably could get us off air. This one. I'm a bad winner. I'm also a bad loser, like, if there is such a thing. So we go to, there was a group of chief executives from GM Active, a great group of guys, highly talented individuals, doing a lot of fantastic things across the breadth of Manchester. But one of the guys says to me, the longest I've ever been to tell them that I've got the best health and fitness club in the UK at Stockport Sports Village is 14 minutes 40 seconds. I'm the most competitive person you've ever met in your life. So you're asking the wrong guy, but what my political message, the correct message that I would say would be, like, every kid should be allowed to express and be given choices that actually gives them enjoyment. You know, whether it's sport, walking, just anything, just get the kids moving. Just you know, on the continuum, like, you know, it's like, you know, you sit down, you stand up, more calories. You stand up, you walk, more calories. You jog from walking, more calories. You run from jogging, more calories. You sprint. Like, just keep the kids moving along, and don't say that's enough activity. I think one of the biggest mistakes that, and this came, you know, and this is just my viewpoint, like NHS Scotland, one of the worst campaigns I've ever seen was Walk About a Bit, where it actually told the Scottish population that you could get fit just walking. So yeah, maybe, but like, then other people who were jogging getting like more fit, decided that I'm going to stop jogging because I can get fit just walking. Right. You know, wrong messages. The message is like, whatever you can do in the continuum, get yourself some discipline and do it.
Yeah. And do you think with coming back to that competition then, like I guess there's just doing the activity, which is good, I suppose, to get someone started. But do you think there needs to be that sort of goal, you know, something to move towards, and to, I guess, I suppose challenge you. I suppose, you know, having this purpose, because I guess, as you know, certainly when children get older and they tend to not have that purpose, you know, I know from my own perspective, you know, that's where you kind of end up going probably in directions that you shouldn't do. So I suppose, you know, more, you know, in terms of the teenagers, what's your views on that in terms of that competitiveness or having a purpose and you know, getting them into something both mentally and physically?
You're just determined to get that one out of me. Like, you know, listen, 100%, and like it, so in my book, you choose no to be disciplined. You actually, like, even some of the most undisciplined people can actually choose to be disciplined or choose to be undisciplined. You have that choice. It depends in the kind of environment you choose to be disciplined or not disciplined around. But behaviourally, that would suggest to me that people are making choices. And I think what you just have to do is be really, really smart around how you coach and shape and deliver the options around those choices, if that makes sense. And it means that, like, in the future, we're going to have really intelligent coaches, really intelligent leaders around kids. Not that we don't have now, but just we have to really, really think about it and almost bespoke it. So you've got 30 kids, but bespoke your approach, your communication, your relationships with each individual kid to squeeze the very, and you know, and the teachers will be listening to this, but going.
And why do you think, like, because it's good to talk about this, why do you think that is? Because obviously there is a shift and things have changed. You know, why is it just that it's such a fine line that it's difficult to get that balance, and some people can take it wrong and go down? Because obviously it's sensitive for you guys, and you guys have got an agenda to do. But why do you think we sort of have an issue about kind of, you know, trying to sort of keep everyone happy and not, you know?
Listen, again, like my view would be that they're right at the highest level, government level, the commissioners around health, healthy lifestyle, healthy projects, actually need to wake up and smell the coffee around physical activity. You know, physical activity, it's like you get invited to the party, but you're not allowed to dance. You know, we keep doing all these trials. You know, let's give us some serious amounts of money so we can do some serious damage on health. You know, we can do some really industrial, community-wide health improvements. Don't just give us £20,000 to like deal with like 40 kids. Give us £400,000. And I know, like, you know, it's tough at the moment, but like the big decisions have to be made. We as a leisure trust, in terms of how much money we've had cut off our management fee right away across Manchester and the whole of England, we're making tough decisions. Like, you know, so the bigger guys upstairs need to stand up and be counted and make some tough decisions and divert some of the money away, maybe from secondary healthcare or dare I say hospitals, or other significant health interventions, and give it to us in physical activity. What have you got to lose?
Yeah, so I suppose it's sort of dealing with the actual cause at the heart of it, as opposed to some of the effects, which is where, would you say that's where a lot of the money is going, you know, dealing with the sort of effects of not having that right in terms of activity and diet, etc.
Yeah, and of course, what the worry is that you could take out a whole generation, like by saying that you're not going to look after them once they get sick. Yeah. You know, and that's tough if that's mine and yours generation. But like, something's got to happen. We can't continue on what we're doing. You know, we're all you know, as a leisure trust, we're at breaking point, and I have got some unbelievable staff who will probably move from this industry in this sector, smart people, and do other things just because of the frustration that they feel. And it's not coming from me, you know, it's coming right for the top end.
So where do you guys get your money from then? Is it you basically make the money from from your memberships and you keep that, or are you supported? How does that work?
Yes, so like, and then this against my private sector day stands me in good stead. So we turn over 12 million, and our management fee at the moment is around about 500,000. It used to be 1.8 million. So that's just net income. That's just straight off your bottom line. You know, so we've managed to navigate through that, but still deliver, you know, the exactly the same, and a much actually an improved service since 2011. But for other trusts who don't have the kind of business stability that we have, or the profit margins, we also own a private facility. The facility I mentioned before, the bet, you know, UK Active's health and fitness facility here is that we own it privately, and we also have another private facility as well at Holsworth Village. But there's a lot of trusts really struggling at the moment, and you know, great organisations, but because of the nature of the business model, they are at the kind of they're under still the control over the management fee that the council provides them, and we all know about austerity. It's really tough at the moment for leisure trusts, and I'm worried that they're going to get a bad press. And in fact, there is just some fantastic organisations and some fantastic people, way better than I've seen in the private sector.
And why is it then they're not able to make enough money from, like, if it was a commercial club, then I guess it's fairly simple. You know, you've got your costs and you've got your you know, the margins that you're charging and the amount of business that you've got in. Does it work differently in your sector then? So even if you're bringing enough revenue and your profit margins are good and your costs are under control, is that, you know, what's the sort of thing that the dynamic that changes that?
Well, the dynamic that changes that is that you, as a charity, a lot of them are charities or co-ops, like, you know, you have to reinvest that money. So you're never going to be sitting with huge amounts of money in your bank at any one time. Right. You know, I don't think the Charity Commission would be you know, too comfortable with that. And then you've got the dynamic that we haven't talked about. So far we've talked about management fee reduction, but then there's the dynamic of competition and budget gyms, and you know we've got Pure Gym and Gym Company and Stockport, both with 7,000, 8,000 members. You know, I think they're good products and I think they're good value, but just really tough for leisure trusts to battle against as a price point. But I'm not going to sit here and knock budget gyms. I think the business model is absolutely sound. I think it's a great concept. We just, as leisure trusts, have to get our act together and work out how we're going to be competitive. And I think sometimes we maybe sit and we moan about it, but we actually, it's what we were talking before, let's just do something about it.
And what's the purpose of a leisure trust then? What's their main objective?
Yeah, well, for us, we want to change the lives of our local community through health improvement, you know, physical and mental. We want to increase activity, and we also have a performance side. So we have Grand Central. So we have Stockport Metro Swim Team, and I think in 2012, I think if Stockport Metro had been a country, I think it would have finished something like 14th to 15th in the medals table. We won a few medals there. So we have a performance side as well. I think that's a big plus, but it's also kind of a big negative. We try to be too many things to too many people, and you know, and then we have swimming pools. You ever try to run a swimming pool and make money? you know, it's no, it's pretty difficult. And that's why there's no any swimming pools in the gym company are pure gyms or in boutiques. But yeah, to improve the health and fitness of communities, and I think there's this inclusivity aspect that we have as well, that you'll see common amongst nearly all the trusts, that fitness and sport for all, accessibility. You know, so yeah, without trying to speak for the sector, that's what we're all about.
And I suppose what's the government's interest in you guys then? Is it because they just can't do it themselves, so they, you know, want to help trusts to provide a service that they can't offer? Is that the link? Or
yeah, no, it's a good question. I think trusts were set up as almost an arm's length delivery option initially for local authorities, but there's a couple of like financial benefits as well in terms of trusts around VAT, etc. But primarily, it's just like a more efficient way to deliver fitness than the old financially efficient. Than it would be like the old local authority.
That were probably not quite as well managed as a kind of, well, without upsetting anyone, but you're probably more sort of business.
Yeah. Well, we are.
Yeah.
Because that's my background. Yeah. So I'm always going to play with the ball at my feet. So that's my background. You know, a lot of trusts are doing really well. Guys who have just worked through the public sector and come into trusts. I think the key is you know, there's regardless, that's what we're talking about, regardless of your skill base, like, you know, and how technically good you are in this day and age, it's about your behaviour and it's about like your creativity. And like, so, you know, a couple of years ago, we developed wearable technology. We had a virtual instructor program that we couldn't sell to anybody. Then there was a study done at one of the American universities, and it said that if you have a virtual instructor talking to you when you're wearing your wearable technology, you have an 80% improvement in your performance over like a 12-week period. And then suddenly we started selling these. But unfortunately, you know, the thing about technology is it moves that quickly. So we had to go to Sweden to get our platform built to deliver it, and we're a leisure trust. Yeah. You know, probably not one of my greatest decisions, but at least we gave it a go, and it's called ActiLife, the ActiLife program.
And you still run that, do you?
Yeah, it's still there, and we've sold it to a couple of trusts, and it's been like really effective. But again, you just keep piling money, and technology, as I said, and we got it then. We had connectivity with Garmin and some of the bigger players, and then they developed their own, and then suddenly it's, you know, you go, you know, not one of the best decisions, but again, you know, for a period of time, it was, you know, it was, I wouldn't say it was on the cutting edge, but it was. Listen, we gave it a go, and it was, you know, and the fact that our leisure trust was trying something like that.
And you said earlier about sort of, you know, the government putting more money into this. If you were, you know, instead of getting 40 grand, you were able to get 400. What would you do differently? You know, what are some of the things you feel need to be done if the money was there?
I just would roll. I would just scale everything up. Like, instead of having neighbourhood programs, you would have like town programs. Like, just scale everything up, because I know it works. I would just. I'm fed up trialing stuff. The time for trialing is over. We know exactly what to do. We know if you put one step in front of the other, you will burn a calorie and you will improve your fitness. Listen, you don't have to be any brighter than to work out that that's what happens. When you move, magic happens. So you just have to get people moving. And the more people you get moving, the more magic that happens. Then you change neighbourhoods' health. You start with the family, then you change neighbourhoods' health, then you change communities' health, then you change the town's health, then you change city's health, then you change the region's health, and then you change the nation's health. Is it any more complicated? But you have to scale it up. That intervention has to be massive, and it has to be accessible.
And the areas of two things. One is what are some of the initiatives that have been very successful that could be scaled up, and then the second part of the question is where does the money need to go? Is it people? Is it sort of promoting that message? So maybe just do the first one once. So what are some of the things that have been really successful in changing people's health and lives?
Like so for us, and we see it like right across this nation. We see the kind of large scale running events. Like why can we not have large scale walking events? Why can there not be a marathon for just people who walk? And again, we say that to instructors. Like you just keep moving them along. But we just need to think about like where we are and what's worked in the past, but actually what needs to work moving forward. So like anything large scale that maybe, because we have a 10k Stockport 10k. We don't have a Stockport walking 10k. It's a running 10k, and if anybody walks in it, they're embarrassed because they take 2.5 hours, and the cones are getting lifted up, and there's nothing wrong with that, because that might be the best effort that guy's ever put in. But as a perspective and as a comparison, we're giving them a negative feedback right through the get go. So I think in terms of like multi sport activities, but like for large scale delivery. What else? The referral programs that we have. Like the significance of exercise and improving in primary healthcare conditions, like we all know, like diabetes, for example, is massive, and we know about the prevention initiative. Let's just join the two together and actually like identify people who are at risk before they even get into the difficult blood sugar levels, etc. And we're always content and waiting till something happens to provide an intervention with the referral programs. Let's have preventative referral programs. That surely's got to work. But there's barely enough money to run the primary referral programs than there certainly would be to run a preventative program, because again, that would need to be scaled up. So instead of like maybe 1,000 people we have going through our program a year, you would need, in a borough the size of Stockport, something like 10,000 people. Right. And that just isn't the funding. And
is there, is funding available, do you think, sort of from the private sector? Do you think there's ways to, have you got examples of people that are doing that, like your?
Yeah, I mean, like I don't know too much detail, but about social bond and health bonds, about like guaranteed health improvement as a return on investment, as opposed to a financial return. I know there's some organisation that are putting some of those bonds up, but listen, we all have a responsibility in terms of our own health. And what I'm going to head back to? I'm going to head back to discipline. And ultimately you have to take responsibility for your own health within the genetic makeup that you are given. And we could sit here and we could blame the NHS, we could blame fitness instructors. The biggest issue we have in life leisure is the first 3 months. So somebody walks through the door and we've got 3 months, like whether they're in contract or not. And I think sometimes we overpromise and underdeliver, in terms of weight or where they're going to be, and they give up too quickly. Not because they don't want to do it, but they get negative feedback really, really early on, and they feel that they're failing. and that's all because I think as maybe as an industry, but certainly we do it at Life Leisure Summit, we know we overpromise because we want to believe that we can do that, and sometimes we project like our fitness perspectives on people who actually have no fitness perspectives whatsoever. And this is where we start talking about health and medical as opposed to fitness. That's where the lines become blurred. And as an industry, I'm not sure we understand that yet.
No, I had a conversation a few weeks ago with someone about a similar subject, and I think it is, when you talk about, I guess, the fitness side of the fitness product delivered in some sort of fitness environment, it is very much about something that you look at. It's your physical body, it's your shape, it's your weight. That is where the conversation is going. And I suppose if we had a conversation here, brainstorm session for half an hour about all the things that we get because we've got a sort of a healthy lifestyle, there's probably way more things than just that narrow part of it, the physical side. And I suppose us, and maybe a lot of people listening to it, because we're in this business, a lot of those things you take it for granted, but when we're kind of telling that story and marketing it's got so many other benefits, particularly, in the mind. You said about children, they perform better at school in their mind, I certainly perform better when I'm working, if I'm exercising. If I go into the office sometimes if I'm not worked out compared to worked out, I'm just in a different mood.
Yeah.
And so, if you take some of those things to the end, it's like, well, have we got the wrong kind of dialogue around this whole thing for a start, which is probably turning people off because, well, I'm never going to look great anyway, so I'll discard it instead of, having those conversations about the other stuff. And there's a lot of research out there, I guess, about what it does.
Listen, Matt, you've just asked a great question, but you've just given yourself a great answer as well. So I think the only thing I would add to that, the reality for me is that, so when I gave up track running for a wee while and I started doing 10Ks, there was too many overweight people who ran past me at speed, not to be fit during a 10K. So you're not going to tell me that you can't be fit and fat, because I gave up running 10Ks, because I just was getting fed up getting battered, and licking along as well. So exactly. So that kind of perspective that you've just talked about is absolutely spot on. Yeah.
And how would you, in what you're doing, how do you think we could, go about changing that message? What's the message you're giving, and how, where could you take it? How?
Would you start with going to the gym with the fun basis just to make yourself smile, just for a bit of fun? Would you start there instead of talking about you're going to lose 2 inches off your waist, or you're going to get in that wee black dress, or it's going to help your diabetes? Would we actually dare to say what we're doing today, Malcolm? We're just going to have a bit of fun. Get looked up for that, maybe. Certainly if you were paying for it, but it's as simple as that. You go and enjoy yourself. I think there's a fair chance you're coming back. Do we get too focused on and we're great. People do that, don't we? We just love naming people. That's Matt, he's got diabetes. And then you say, then the individuals then start bringing it to life, and that's who they are, and they forget who they are. They become their disease state, or I've seen too many people with cancer with great well-being in their programs to actually believe that you can have a great well-being but still struggle with and what a paradox that is. And I see it every day. So maybe that their well-being comes from that they're actually enjoying life and they're having a bit of fun, and the gym and actually the outcome is enjoyment.
Yeah, that'd be an interesting one.
New concept.
And do you think that would change the how you would look and design those spaces? Because I remember, I think Hatfield was one of the spaces we did some stuff with you a long time ago, and a lot of the spaces you did were, a lot of these places were quite fun. There was a lot of interesting ideas, and I know nowadays some of the stuff is, some people have adopted it. It's not quite as new, but just having different spaces in the gym, having different areas that you can move around, mixing up where you put things in there, and do you think that the sort of way that we design and create these spaces could be different for a different outcome?
Oh yeah, Hatfield was a playground. Hatfield was way ahead of its time, because you used to get people coming in and saying, why is the treadmill here? Why is there only 3 cross trainers? Like, there's, and well, actually, you could go and do some functional stuff, because I do believe you can maybe burn more calories than doing your CV stuff. Like, Hatfield was just a playground, just a way ahead of its time. And you see, a lot of gyms like get close to that, but no willing just to take the next step by just having a big open space, throwing a load of functional stuff out there, and actually, and I think some of the kind of like the standalone boutique stuff and like the cross training gyms, I think they get really close. For me, if I was going to be a gym member, it would be a cross training gym. I just would want to go in, and I just would just want to play about for an hour. Why do you think as a supplier that kind of, or that concept hasn't taken off? Because obviously it would be like just massive for you guys in terms of where you place yourself in the industry as compared maybe to Life Fitness, but we love just jumping on a treadmill. We love jumping on a cross trainer, setting it for like 30 minutes and doing, I don't know, like 300 calories, when you could go and throw a Bulgarian bag, like hit a speed, but I don't know what, and like do 1,000 calories. Maybe the high intensity stuff, the HIIT programs and David Lloyd Blaze, and maybe the guys have nailed it, but it still feels programmed and manufactured, and listen, instructor-led programs, big fan of those, but like surely there's got to be a point where the instructor coaches the individual that they can actually go into the venue and actually do something themselves and still enjoy it, or better still get their family in, or get a couple of pals in, and then they become the instructors.
I think it's, I suppose there's still a small percentage of people that attend regularly, and maybe it is just a case of, that marketing story works and it keeps those same people coming back. And I suppose those same people, for me it is easy. I can jump on a treadmill, get my heart rate up, do some weights, and I've been doing this for 30 odd years, and that's what I do. But I suppose it's all the people that would never ever want to even be interested in doing that. What appeals to them? It's not. They've got different motives to me, and I suppose, like you say, throwing a ball out and having, doing some fun stuff maybe is what will interest them. It's just whether you could create, I suppose, a business model around it. I don't know.
It's an interesting paradox, isn't it? Because earlier on we were talking about discipline, and now we're talking about fun, and it seems like two ends of a continuum, and so for me, I talked about like the sessions I do, and not only am I not motivated, I don't even think they're fun. So I do this hill session on a Sunday, and it's a 200-meter hill, and I run up it 4 or 5 times, and if I overcook it, 52. If I overcook it, it's you don't come back, and you maybe have like a wee bit of muscle soreness. You come back and you go to your bed. You are in your bed until the next morning. that's for overcooking it as a 52-year-old. I ran up the hill the other day, and a woman came up with a dog, and you know, you forget how old you are. I mean, I still think I'm 25. So I finish the run, and I'm breathing really badly, really heavily, and I'm thinking she's going to say to me, I hope you're not going to run up that hill again. But then she says to me, are you having a heart attack? Do I need to phone somebody? And I'm like, no, I'm fine. I just like, you know, and then you go down, and then you look at your face in the mirror of the car, and you're as white as a sheet, and then it's the 50-year-old face, and you think, that's a fair question. She genuinely was concerned about me. I don't stand at the bottom of that hill every Sunday morning and say, this is magic. I'm really going to enjoy this. I just know I have to do it. And I take off my first step, and I don't think. Because if I start thinking, I ain't going to do it. So to answer your question, it's all things to all people, isn't it? Yeah. The guys who want to play, give them an opportunity to play. The disciplined ones amongst us, then, you know, structure, you know, focus, seriousness, intensity, and the other guys in the middle ground, then they can just, they're fine, because that's what they have at the moment. We're a bit middle of the road, aren't we, in the UK, in terms as a product. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think, yeah, there's a lot of that, a lot of similar, I suppose that's my message, a lot of similar messaging with similar products, but there's still a lot of people that are overweight, not getting, you know, not healthy, whether that's kids or, you know, adults, and there's people that just are still not interested in going there, regardless of how cheap it is to go in there. There's still a lot of people that are just not ever going to do that, and it's what, you know, how, you know, what to do for those people, I suppose. Yeah. So what's some of the things that you've been proud of in your career so far? What's your sort of most sort of achievements that you feel?
I'm so proud that I've managed to fool all the people all the time to this point. But like just the getting the degrees that I've got. As I say, I've never been the brightest guy in the room. I think managing the first manager for Next Generation, you know, been chosen to you know, my athletics career as an athlete, I left everything on the track. I was limited in terms of capability, but what I made up with just in determination. You know, I retired with my athletics, not saying I could have done better. I did everything I could. You know, and just right up to present day, like, you know, life, leisure, taking the 3.5 million to 12 million turnover. You know all the awards we've won. The just amazing staff that I have. Just you know, Ruth Lynch, one of my assistant head operations, just did the keynote presentation at the UK Active Awards, the slot that Laura Trott did last year. Just unbelievably proud there, and just like, you know, I'm living proof. If you surround yourself with good people, you can achieve amazing things. I'm more proud of I think the impact I've had on, you know, some of the guys, maybe even Simspa, than any of my achievements, if that makes sense. Because, like, I think we should focus on legacy. I think that, you know, we're too focused on, like, what we can see in front of us, and what we want to see, and what we can see in our own horizon. And I think we should be more focused on legacy, and be working towards things that we may never see. We never may be about to see. But that doesn't mean say it's not just as important. And, you know, I know I've got 3-4 like chief executives in life, leisure at the moment. And do you know what? I might never get to see them being chief executives, but that doesn't mean to say that they're not going to be chief executives, and we don't work them towards that. Yeah. So yeah, listen, I'm just so blessed to have worked in an unbelievable industry, and to have enjoyed it so much, and met some great people. Yeah.
So what's your you are competitive, and I'm sure you've got something planned. But what are some of the things that you've not yet done in your career that you'd like to do?
I would like, personally for me, I love being at Life Leisure, but I just feel I've got one more big job that again, getting back to the never standing still, momentum, keep moving forward. I just would love one more big challenge. I'd love to run a low 24-second 200 meters as a 50-year-old. Because it might surprise you, but I love a medal as an athlete as well. Still, do you remember? Do you remember wacky races? Yeah, Dick Dastardly, Muttley. Muttley used to love a medal. Jeez, I love a medal. So yeah.
And with the challenge, is there any things that you've sort of thought would be your perfect big challenge? Is it?
Yeah, I mean, I love the behavioural change stuff. I love the transformational. So it wouldn't necessarily be in this sector. People, like what we talked about before. The most important thing are people, and if you were interviewing me right now and you said to me, Malcolm, what is your best skill? What tool do you have in your kit belt? And I would just say, I don't know how I manage it, but I can get average people to do unbelievable things. And I suppose I can endorse that myself, because I'm a pretty average guy, to be honest. So, yeah.
But you've done some pretty impressive things in your career, certainly. So, final question then. What would be an example of where you believed you've escaped your own personal limits, or limits that other people have said to you are impossible?
That's my life story. To choose one thing, I think the hardest thing for me as a kid, and we talked about earlier on, and I still carry it to this day. I've only started talking about the time I spent in care and as a kid in the last 5-6 years, and I literally came out in a health club management article because I was embarrassed about it. I thought it was going to affect what people thought about me, and I just kept it, and I almost kept it so far away I believed it didn't happen, and I just decided that I was going to start dealing with it, and I was going to start dealing with talking about it, and I had the opposite effect. When I talked about it, it started inspiring people. Brilliant. And I started talking about in a nice, safe group of kids. I work with a group of kids back in Bolton, and it was a nice, safe environment. And I talked about them, and I thought, well, I'm going to tell more people, and then eventually I had brave enough to tell other people in the industry. But the hardest thing for me was escaping that badge that I had on as a troublemaker, as no good, is you're never going to be good at anything, and as a kid, just honestly, I kid you not, I remember it right now, just waking up in that morning and just thinking, I ain't gonna live like this anymore. I'm not gonna be, I'm better than that, and I want to have nice things, you know, and we talk, these days about like having nice things and like money is we say that shouldn't be your focus. You should focus on other stuff, but that's a side effect of working hard. We shouldn't be embarrassed. And I tell my kids, and the guys at Life Leisure, if you think you deserve a pay rise, you bring your A game and you talk me into it. But just deliver for me and make it easy for me. So when you write that figure on that bit of paper, just make me go, too good. Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah. Well, Malcolm, it's been a pleasure to sort of relive some of those stories again and to see how far you've come since we last spoke. And I appreciate your time and wish you best wishes for that big project, whatever's coming next.
Oh, Matt, thanks for the opportunity to come in and just like a trip down memory lane. It's been cathartic.
Yeah. And also thanks, you gave us and the company a big break, certainly when we were starting, so I appreciate that.
No problem.
Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you.